why don't we share the locations of our property? I'll kick this one off, then I'll hand to you. The reason for that is we use a buyer's agent. So we use Dashdot, or have in the past used Dashdot, and have been very happy with the service. If when we purchase a property, we release that location, we're actually releasing their private IP. So for example, if we say we're buying a location, that might indicate to other people that that's a good location to buy, and other people may start looking there where that's information they've formed from their data. So we don't want to give away their stuff just in case they are buying more in that location and they've done the research to have that right of way. We may retrospectively, like down the road, release some closer locations. I'm actually okay with that, Grant. Are you?
Yeah, I'm completely fine with it.
Yeah, but I do think you want to be respectful of your buyer's agent. You don't want to be creating challenges from them or potentially driving demand to an area where they're trying to buy property.
Totally. And even to that point, like the properties that I buy are specific to my portfolio. Like the properties that you bought are specific to your portfolio and your strategy. Like it's like my properties are probably going to be horrific, especially now with me doing what I'm doing, for someone else. Like it's just, it only applies based on my situation. But even to that point, like when I bought it, it was a point in time. And I'm like, old information is never going to apply into the future. So even if I bought it a month ago, right, like it's probably outdated. The data probably doesn't support it anymore. It was good at that time. But then if I say it and you're like, oh, I'm going to get in, I'm like, okay, there's no guarantee that it's going to be good.
That's such two excellent points on that one right there about right property for you. I mean, for the surgeon who's trying to get tax breaks, he needs something very different than someone else who needs their retirement years and income, for example. Totally. So I think that's such a good point. And that moment in time, like when you buy something, is huge. You know, buying in Melbourne CBD 50 years ago, probably a good idea.
Yep.
Doing it today, hard to say.
And the other one is like the location within a suburb as well. Like there are streets to avoid. There are streets that you have to be in. Like there's school zones that you have to be in and have to avoid. And just like I got no way to articulate all those points to someone else. So there's too many variables. Like there's just so many variables to go by. So
I want to throw something else out into this conversation. Have you seen what buyers agents and property researchers go through to pick a location? Have you ever like had a little delve into what goes into picking a place to buy a property for an investment purpose?
From a macro, yes. From a micro, no. So like the rough suburbs of going, these are the influence on a suburb, on how they generate income and most of the jobs that sit within the suburb and this over another suburb and vacancy rates and all those things, yes. As to like the flood maps, kind of the streets, no. Like where they get to that level, no, I just have not.
All right, well, here's a little Charlie story for you. When I first got into property investing, so just keep in mind, when I first got into this, I had a very poor mindset. I basically was deeply concerned on buying a lemon or getting scammed. All right, so I wouldn't have been a good client in general. Let me put it this way.
That's fair.
So when you engage a buyer's agent, you're engaging them with the trust of picking a location that is right for you and your circumstance in this thing here. And I was like, well, I'm going to learn some of this. I'm not going to like blatantly trust their recommendation. I want to know, like, if they're picking a location, like, well, why does infrastructure matter? And like hospitals, like I want to deeply understand this. So I started like learning some of the points, right? So it's like, and I'll reference the ones that I learned. I'm not going to say that these are universally true for everything because they're definitely not. Was like population growth.
Yep.
Was a huge one. Supply and demand. So like landlocked areas versus like massive greenfields and places where they can just add more property, infrastructure and hospitals and jobs, and then vacancy rate.
Yep.
And I'm like, sweet, if I know these metrics here, I'll be good. And I actually spent some time with my buyer's agent, and then he relayed what he uses. And I'm watching this and I'm looking at it and I'm like, there is no chance I'm ever picking a location.
Totally. I on the more recent one that I bought, there was a suburb that was a bit closer to the beach. I'm like, looking at the houses on realestate.com. Like, there's like $100,000 more. I'm like, why aren't we? So I asked them, I said, why aren't we looking there? And like, there's a reason. Let me just have a look at the data and get back to you. And they just riddled like these 15 reasons as to why like not buying there is like a good idea not to touch that spot. And I'm like, yep, cool, I trust you. Like, just let's go with the one you've selected.
I've sent properties to my buyer's agent going, and I look at this and go, what an asshole comment to write. tell me why we shouldn't buy this. Looks,
Yeah, I know.
looks great.
But it's so justified in people's heads, right? Because when we get started, it's like, oh, I'm now starting to see some of these patterns. Like you do this close to here, this. And then so for us as humans, we're like, oh yeah, cool. No, I can pick these patterns. So prove to me why I shouldn't get this one. And they're just like, oh, another one.
I think this just highlights something where, especially because I had bought my own home previously and that had gone well. So I had bought a PPR prior to doing property investing and had a really good result. It gives you an exuberance of confidence that you can do something that wasn't just luck.
I can do it now.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I just very much view picking locations to buy property is in the equivalence of like car mechanics and dentists.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I'm not going to service or fix my own car because I don't have the skills or knowledge to do that. I want to pay a professional where all day, every day, this is what they do. So they're taking all that experience and results they've gotten for other people and deploying it into my situation.
Totally.
And same with dentistry. Like I think this is a really good thing. And I kind of like dentistry as the example, right? Because I'm like happy to give it a little brush, right? I'm happy to do the books and a little bit of property management. But by no means am I extracting wisdom teeth.
All right, fellow property investor. If you loved the value from this short video and wanted to know more about how you can win at property investing, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now. Alternatively, click subscribe and you'll never miss another one of these videos.